Good morning, my name is Terrell Harris from the Open Box, where our vision is to make wholeness more accessible. Today's message comes from Matthew 25, verses 14 through 30. Now, I'm not going to read it because it's a pretty long passage, so I'm just going to give you a brief summary of what actually happens. This is called or entitled The Parable of the Talents. And my message today is, what I wanted to do is express the importance of teamwork or the importance of partnership. So what happens in this particular parable or passage is you have a rich man who goes off on a journey and he leaves 3 slaves with a boatload of money. So oftentimes when we hear this parable, they use the word talents, and then when you hear it preached in churches or in Bible studies, they use the word talent to mean ability or skill set. But what the word talent actually means is money. So the amount of money that a talent was back in the first century is 15 years' wages. So he leaves one slave, do the math, he leaves one slave 5 years' wages, another slave 2 years' wages, 5 talents, another slave 2 talents, and another slave 1 talent. So the first slave with 5 talents has 75 years worth of wages. The second slave has 30 years worth of wages, and the first slave has 15 years worth of wages, and this is based on their skill set. So 75, 30, and 15. So in the passage, there's not necessarily an expectation of what the slaves are supposed to do with the money, but based on how the passage flows, we assume that they're supposed to invest the money or do something to put the money to use. So what happens is, as the story goes on and the master comes back, the first slave who had 5 talents or 75 years worth of wages, he actually doubled what the master gave him, and so did the second slave. He turned his from 2 talents to 4 talents, and then the last slave, he buries his resources just because of the fearfulness he has towards his master. So instead of actually trying to take a risk with the money, what he decides to do is put it somewhere safe, and he actually gets condemned by the master. So the master congratulates the other 2 slaves for making money, and because this particular slave didn't invest it or didn't do anything positive with it, the slave master condemns him and practically sentences him to hell. So let's just again do the math. So the first slave increased his master's gainings to 150 years worth of wages. The second slave increased his master's wages from 30 to 60, and then the last slave, he remained at 15. So they started off combined. The master gave them 120 years worth of wages, and by the end of their journey combined, they had 225 years of wages. So I don't, initially, when I would be in church, I would like this story because it's like, oh, don't waste your resources or don't bury your talents or your skill set. But as I was thinking about this passage this week, I'm not necessarily feeling this text anymore. Mainly because the author of the text comes, which is I guess Jesus. We're saying that this is Jesus in this context. They come down so hard on the individual who didn't decide to manage the resources, quote unquote, wisely, or he didn't decide to invest them. The question I have for this text, as I was doing my research and study today, is why didn't these individuals pool their money together to actually start a business or to further expand some of the resources they have? So what this particular text does for me now, it actually promotes individualism, but in the context of actually having money, these slaves probably could have did a lot more if they pooled their resources together. Or at least for me, even if I was like either the first or the second slave, and I saw the guy next to me struggling and saw that he was just going to bury the resources, based on what I know, based on my skill set, I probably would have gave him a nudge and say, hey, maybe you need to come on board with me, and then we can multiply, the money that the master gave us. Or I would have let him know, based on how master is, burying that money is a good idea. So instead, this text says that we should be separate and manage our resources by ourselves. But I want to challenge that text. So let's just talk about some famous business partnerships. So, I use my phone to do a lot of research. So as I was preparing for this particular message, what I did is I wanted to Google successful partnerships, right? So I come across a few companies that we know and that we definitely have heard of. So one of the first companies, let's just say Google. The two partners, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they founded Google in 1998. You see how successful Google is. I have Google stock, so I know. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak founded Apple in 1976. Evan Williams and Biz Stone founded Twitter 2006. Bill Gates, Paul Allen, Microsoft 1975. Bill Hewitt and David Packard, Hewlett Packard 1939. Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream 1978. Pierre Omidyar and Jeffrey Skoll, eBay 1995. Gordon Moore and Bob Noyce, Intel 1968. William Procter, James Gamble, Procter & Gamble, responsible for Tide, Cheer, Folgers, Pringle, I think this is Sunny Delight, Febreze, Ivory, or is that Ivory or Dawn? Yeah, no, Ivory. Jerry Yang and David Philo, Yahoo 1995. So as you can see, the list of successful partners goes on. So for me, again, as I look at this text and see that although, two of the three slaves were extremely successful in starting their own businesses or going out and multiplying the wages that they gave them, I just think, with 120 years worth of wages, if they pulled that together, imagine what they could have actually done with the money as a unified team. Because some of these businesses that I mentioned, they probably started from the ground up, where they didn't have that much financial resources as we portray in the actual story of the talents. Imagine if you're starting out, or you're trying to partner up with somebody, and you have a unique skill set and they have a unique skill set, and both of you all have individual resources as it relates to your finances. Imagine if you guys pool your resources together. So for me, as an entrepreneur, what I often realized later on, and I was trying to do this, is my skill set and other individuals who had their own business skill set was rather unique. But for some reason, it often seems that we want to start our own businesses and then kind of start our own empire and build them up. But there's often wasn't a unified front. But from this particular Business Insider article, what I found is some of the most successful companies start with teams and start with partners. So I would challenge you to actually link up with somebody if you're trying to establish a business, or if you're trying to even just increase your wealth. I remember one guy I used to work with. He had a investment club. So him and a bunch of friends would pool a bunch of money together. They would meet as a team, and then they would build their resources that they had based on their individual knowledge of different companies and different stocks. And although we could do a lot of damage by ourselves, we could do more damage with a team. So even for me, just looking at the Open Box started off as a blog entitled 7 Minute Ministries. I was doing it by myself, just blogging things from school. And then once I changed the dynamic, or was given the vision to change the dynamic of it, then I added on Brooke. We started a team. Then I had individuals who actually help out and offer up articles. So shout out to Yolanda, shout out to Tamika, shout out to Angela, and then also shout out to people who fully support the Open Box and push out the content all the time. So shout out to Danielle, shout out to my boy JC. So what I realized is, for me, even just pushing this small aspect of the Open Box, I can't do this alone. Even though I have a unique talent and unique skill set, those individuals who help me further increase the message actually help to make the Open Box successful. So if you need more of a contemporary idea about this, just for me, I listen to like a lot of old school rap. So we can take a look at Wu-Tang Clan. 9 solo artists who were rapping, and they didn't, really blow up until they actually came together as a group. So you had 9 individuals coming together as a group. For those who are a little bit younger, you could talk about Cash Money, Young Money. So as those individuals came together, you got Lil Wayne, Drake, Nicki Minaj, and then Cash Money was a group before a Young Money. So you had those individuals as well. So you have the business side, you have hip hop. You see the most successful groups are the ones who actually form teams and then go off to do their individual things. So I would challenge you to form a group or look to partner up with somebody if you're trying to pursue some of your dreams and some of your goals. So today's prayer is that you find a teammate, is that God provides you with a strong team member or strong team members who will help you to pursue your goals, and that you will actually be able to come together as a unified front and achieve all of your wildest dreams. Peace and blessings. I hope this message reached you. And what I want you to do is share the message. Actually, no. Here's the question I have for you. If you ever partnered up with anybody, share your experience below. Or if you're doing things on your own, the question I have for you is, would you benefit from a partner? Peace and blessings. Visit us on theopenbox.com.